Today's creative world is music.
Today's guest is from the world of music.
Today's guest is a senior music producer for Disney Live Entertainment. She is a creative collaborator, music industry mentor, and educator, bringing her 20-plus years of A-level experience in Los Angeles, Florida, and abroad as a music director, songwriter, orchestrator, arranger, session singer, keyboardist, and recording artist. She also founded the first professional music credits database to be endorsed by the Music Library Association and is dedicated to preserving the legacy of professional musicians in the digital age.
She has performed in over 8,000 live concerts in her career, has over 500 film TV placements of her music, and has recorded on over 100 film TV soundtracks as a singer and keyboardist. She has performed in 49 states and on 5 continents and has received numerous awards for her work, including ASCAP Award for Songwriting, LA Weekly Award, Cine Award, Garand Award, and LA Critics Award for Music Direction.
She is also the creator of a brand new online course called How to Rock Your Music Career as a session musician, performer, creative, or music professional. Truly amazing.
Please welcome Christy Crowl.
Hi, my name is Lisa.
And I'm Haruka.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
How are you doing today?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm good.
Thank you for asking.
So let me do the first question. Could you please briefly introduce yourself?
My name is Christy Crowl, and I'm a professional musician, and currently I'm a music producer for a major entertainment company.
So you are currently a full-time senior music producer for Disney Live Entertainment and currently oversee music productions for shows and attractions at Walt Disney World and Disney parks around the world, as well as Disney Cruise Lines?
Yes, we produce a lot of music at Disney.
Do you have like a favorite Disney park you visited to or an attraction?
You know, I'm new to Disney actually in the last couple of years, so I haven't seen all the parks. My favorite would probably be Animal Kingdom in Orlando.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I heard you were based in Florida?
I am now, yes. I was in Los Angeles for almost 25 years, and then this opportunity came and I took it and I moved to Florida.
Thank you for joining us here today.
So what production do you credit as your breakthrough for your current success, and how did you seize the opportunity in the first place?
Gosh, this is such a layered question, and I want everyone to listen to this. I credit everything with I had 2 amazing piano teachers growing up and in college that just gave me every opportunity to perform, to write, or to travel with music, and basically talked my parents into letting me go to kind of summer festivals or camps as a musician, audition for to participate, to be educated by kind of world-renowned pianists or musicians. I spent 2 summers in college in Europe playing. So I have to take everything back to those kind of first experiences, which you may not think are really professional or like the big breakthrough. But the skills I learned, and I talk about this in a course that you guys are going to learn about later on in our interview, but I talk about kind of the skills of collaboration and being versatile, and how that really, learning that at such an early age and being able to kind of adapt into whatever environment that musicians often have to adapt to, that was really key to whatever success I have. So I give all the credit to my music teachers, really.
And during your tenure with Disney, you have overseen the music offerings for Epcot's Festival of the Arts, Disney on Broadway, Epcot's Festival of the Holidays, the Disney Dreamers Academy, and special events produced by Disney Event Group. By the way, she was also the music producer for the Disney Wish christening featuring Anika Noni Rose and the 50th anniversary celebration event featuring Christina Aguilera, both of which were live streamed. I'm sure many of you might have seen them. So, could you tell us kind of similarly your background and how you got into the industry in the first place?
Well, basically how I got into the industry was I moved here right after my master's degree in college, and I did a switch from, I was a classically trained pianist coming into college, and then during college I actually performed with the rock ensemble, I sang with a jazz vocal group. I switched gears from my master's degree and went into music production. That's what my master's is in. So I basically asked my teachers, all my professors, for names of alumni from my university and I planned 2 visits, one to Los Angeles and one to New York. And I visited Los Angeles and I met with every single person that was an alumni or a referral from my teachers, and was given some opportunities so that if you move, like it was kind of like, well, if you move here, definitely, you know, look me up, and if I have, you know, some opportunities for you, then I'm happy to help you out. So that's kind of, I was prepared. I had, you know, my resume and my demos, and when I moved, I was that kind of you have to hustle as a musician, and I really worked those contacts, and if they didn't have anything for me, I would be looking in those days, it was Backstage West and Variety that you would look at, and you would send in resumes. And I worked as a production assistant for a commercial house, and then as a music supervisor for a post-production company. And then actually was invited to finish my doctorate at USC as a piano major. But because I had a music production background, I went through the film scoring program as well. But my first year there, because I had had the eclectic and versatile experience of being classical musician plus kind of this commercial music production, a call came into the keyboard administrator at USC asking for a classical pianist who could play at a click, who could go on tour. And I became the pianist for a tour called Bugs Bunny on Broadway, a show where a live orchestra would play the Bugs Bunny cartoons. And a month later, I was in Mexico playing with the National Symphony of Mexico, a concert with Bugs Bunny on Broadway. So, and out of that, it kind of snowballs. So I think in music, especially, if you show up and you give your best. So starting at that, that was my first tour. Fast forward about 10, 15 years later, the people, a couple folks involved with that tour were involved with Mannheim Steamroller, which is a kind of a Grammy-winning band, and you've heard them on the radio at Christmas time. They needed a new keyboardist and eventually conductor, so my name just got put in the hat of recommendations, and they literally called me up, 15 years later and asked me to be a member of the band. So it was because I showed up and I did a good job, but it was because of a teacher recommending me at USC that happened. So, these things just kind of snowball, and that's what I want to kind of, actually the point that I hope everyone takes from this is that it's not impossible. I come from a small town, no contacts, no industry, savvy at all, but I just kind of kept showing up and doing good work and practicing, and of course, being a good person to work with, and eventually now I'm a music producer for Disney.
You said you started in classical piano, and then I understand you do a little bit of singing as well?
I do. Growing up, I was very musical. I sang in the chorus, but I played piano, so most of the times the choir teachers would ask me to accompany the choir, so they didn't have to pay somebody to come in. So basically, the middle school and high school choirs, I played for all our concerts. They would give me a solo, like if the choir teacher would be comfortable playing something, they would give me a solo. It was like, okay, you can sing, but then I had to go back to playing piano. Same thing with the musicals. The High School Musical, I played for all the High School Musicals, but my senior year, anyway, we did The Wiz, and I was cast in the role of Glinda, because Glinda only sings at the beginning of the show. And then I had to go and play the rest of the show at the piano with the band. So singing-wise, I got more into singing in college, singing with the jazz vocal ensembles and things. That was a lot of fun. I kind of, in Los Angeles, when I came to LA, that wasn't my first foray into being musical, because I was more known as music director, keyboard player. But because of that, we were doing some demos for a very famous artist, and through someone I was working with. And when that very famous artist did a Christmas album, one of the producers recommended me to be one of the singers that did the demos for the arrangements that the producer was putting together. And out of that, then as it works in Los Angeles, the contractors who were contracting for the album choir and things, the producer recommended me to be one of the choir because I was part of the demo process with the arrangements and blah, 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 and I'd be a good person to have on the recording session as a singer. So because of that, they ended up asking me on more and more sessions. So I've sung on probably close to 100 films and TV shows, and and again, it's part of this kind of eclectic world of music that we can all participate in if we just kind of work on our versatility and working with people.
It's really amazing.
Yeah.
So what was the most memorable production or work, and how was it so different from the others?
Gosh, you know, every production is different from the other. I mean, even with the projects within Disney, you know, each one is so specific to itself. Experience-wise, probably Cirque du Soleil. I was a music director for Cirque du Soleil before this role, and I was a music director for one of their tours, for one of their big top shows. And that was my first experience working with acrobats. So that was a whole, and coming from working a lot in theater and in film and television, working with live acrobats was a whole different ball game. They're not singers, they're not, so learning how to cue, in Cirque du Soleil, the program that the music is programmed in is called Ableton, but we have a live band who kind of plays along with tracks. And the music director, you have a microphone where we say call the show. So basically you have to learn the acrobats' movements and their tricks, as they're called, so that you know when they're moving on to the next one, you have to call in the next part of the music to keep going through. So I learned really early in the first couple weeks I was on the job that different acrobats they might be the same, like teeterboard guy, but they do somersaults different, or they do flips different, which means the timing is different. I also learned that if there was a substitute act, that was, you know, you had to reprogram the different music to come on. So that was probably the most, it was very stressful, but the most different of any kind of musical experience I've had, because it was, you know, essentially you're watching athletes, you know, and you're accompanying their movements in a show. And if you're off, like if you had to call out the landings and had to anticipate, you know, when they're jumping from 30 feet, you know, and flipping, you had to anticipate how long it's going to take them to hit so that music is out at the exact second they land. Because the lights and the stage manager are calling the riggers and the lights on at that moment too. So it was amazing to be part of, you know, but that's probably the most different from any previous experience that I had had.
Besides Disney, you've done a numerous amount of work with other productions. Could you tell us a bit about them and perhaps to share some of your experience with us?
Sure. Well, I mentioned Mannheim Steamrollers, so they were actually my first band that I did a bus tour with, so that was a different experience. So that's essentially, we did about close to 60 concerts around the holiday season. We would start like the end of October, beginning of November, and tour through New Year's, a different city every day, and we would have what we called pickup orchestra in every city who would perform with us every night. So I started with Mannheim as a keyboard player, and then I grew into being a conductor and kind of what they call first piano player for them. And when I went into that role, I became the conductor of the band, which meant that I ran all the rehearsals for the pickup orchestras in every city. So from a schedule and bus tour standpoint, what that meant was my day, you would get off the bus in the morning, I would walk in, I'd have a bite to eat, then I would have a 2 to 3 hour rehearsal with the pickup orchestra in that city, and I'd take them through the whole score of the show. Then I would have the sound check with the band, and then we would have dinner, and then we'd have a concert, and then we would sign autographs, and then we get back on the bus. And we do that 60 days in a row.
Sounds like a busy day.
So that was the most different. Cirque du Soleil, we were in hotels, but it was a 12-hour day. Like I would go in and I learned I had to watch the trainings when the acrobats would practice, so that I learned what their act was like, because I had to call the music that accompanied their act. For Wicked, I was the keyboard 2 kind of assistant music director, and on that my responsibilities were advancing the music to the next city. I had to learn programming for that particular keyboard, but also all the rehearsal book you had to conduct once a week usually in whatever city, and you were in hotels. And I did take my dogs on that tour too. So everything's a little bit different, you know. It's fun, it keeps it fresh that way.
Do you have any memorable cities you've worked in?
Oh gosh, yes. So the Bugs Bunny on Broadway tour, we played at the Sydney Opera House, and we played at the Performing Arts Hall, I think Victoria. I can't remember the exact name, but it was in the province of Victoria. Melbourne. Playing in Australia was incredible with the Sydney Symphony and then with the Melbourne Symphony. Sydney Opera House is just kind of an iconic moment, an iconic place to play. I conducted Wicked at the Kennedy Performing Arts Center in Washington, D.C., which is close to where I grew up, so that was like a homecoming, and that was a wonderful place to play. The Hollywood Bowl, of course, I performed there a couple times. In Staples Center, I got to perform on the Grammys singing backup for Gnarls Barkley, dressed as I think we had these orange jumpsuits on and sunglasses as a backup singer. So it's kept it interesting and fun. I've been very lucky.
This episode will be available on YouTube this coming Saturday. For details, please check out our Facebook page. Next, more exciting materials to show you all.